Thank you all for the opportunity to be with you today. As someone who's worked largely in academia, it becomes very significant for me when I actually meet with and get the chance to interact with practitioners. That is what you are to me, and that is what I will be addressing today. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. I wanted to say we all learn things. So while I'm introducing someone who's going to speak to you, Madam Chair just taught me how to pronounce C-E-D-A-G-O-G-Y. I always used to say pedagogy, now I know pedagogy. Oh, you know Alright,
right, so I must be right.
We follow the market principle. I will build on what Dr. Lin has said. What he said to us was extremely important. He raised significant recognition of issues, not so much from coffee shop talk or personal anecdotes, but from specific facts and figures. What I'm going to address today is nothing in the macro, which is what he did for you. Mine is micro, as I said. I'm addressing you as educators or as people who make policy about education. Therefore, what I'm going to say is quite practical, it is constructive, and it in no way is meant to deny or say that speaking up in a public place, lobbying on politicians, saying certain things are wrong, unjust, unfair, so on and so forth. I'm not addressing that. When I ask you to do what I'm going to speak about, it is related specifically to education and to shaping generations of Malaysians. Okay? So take it in that spirit. But to help you along that, in case, like all of us, we are filled with our resentment, with our anger, and with our pain. And it is a resentment, anger, and pain that is largely directed at the other. Let's be honest, Malays and Muslims. But I think it's very important for you, apart from stories and personal pain, to understand a little bit of the bigger picture. Not a lot of statistics that to do something. It's very interesting that in an Asian Barometer survey, the Malaysia component done in 2007, when Malaysia is divided as Malays, Chinese, Indians, and others, and there's a separate category for Sabah and Sarawak, I think it's very important to make that distinction all the time. Because when we talk about Bumiputera, and then we go and lump them in, we forget about their own problems, which are sometimes far greater than ours. So, in terms of Malays, to the answer to the question, how much trust do you have in Malays? Quite a lot of trust. Only 56.1% of Malays said they had quite a lot of trust in Malays. 43.3% Chinese said they had quite a lot of trust in Malays. 58% of the Indians polled said they had quite a lot of trust in Malays. So when we come down to the reality within our heart, perhaps we are not so different after all. More statistics. Oh, another question. How much trust do you have in Chinese? Okay? So, and let's go with the quite a lot of trust. So don't change the statistics. Quite a lot of trust. How much trust do you have in Chinese? Quite a lot of trust, 35.3% of the Malays. Now many people, when they saw that, said can't be true. But it is true. So more than a third of Malays have quite a lot of trust in Chinese. Worse than the Malays, less Chinese have trust in Chinese. Only 48.8% of Chinese have trust in Chinese. 51.8% of Indians trust Chinese. So again, I'm trying to tell you, we are not that different after all. And this was done by Medical Center, not some bunch of people running around. This is very well done. Now, in late 2005, early 2006, I did a survey that Madam Chair spoke about of Malaysian Muslims in Peninsular Malaysia. So again, differentiate, Sabah and Sarawak. It's a fairly old survey. I'm negotiating right now with funders who want me to do this same survey for Southeast Asia. But the funder is giving me trouble, or I'm giving them trouble, I'm not sure where it goes. But anyway, in that survey that I did, 97% of Malays responded yes to the question, is it acceptable for Malaysian Muslims to live alongside people of other religions? 79% responded yes to the question, should Malaysian Muslims learn about other religions in Malaysia? 83% responded yes to participating in interfaith dialogue. Okay? Now you tell me, as many Malays and non-Malays told me, cannot be true lah. I know, I think that's very rubbish. No, I'm sorry, my student was very, very good and I'm willing to stand up to scrutiny. What is happening is that we need to differentiate between ordinary Malays and the politicians who do not speak on their behalf, but claim their voices. And we all do that, so let's be fair. And who, for political expedience, will then make the most bigoted and racist remarks, not realizing how they are impacting our public life. Okay? So learn to differentiate. This is really, really important. And how do we take it closer to home? Racist policy, but differentiate. Is the Malay next door to me as poor or poorer than me? Does every Malay I know get a scholarship? I'll tell you, I had brilliant research assistants who were Malays who did not get any scholarship. Okay? They were not related to UMNO Putra. So we need to make that differentiation, and within that is what I'm going to talk to you about, and I'll get right into it. The first thing that I would like to say to you is we need to reach out. Some of you have heard me say this elsewhere. I say this with utmost fervor. If we do not integrate in this country, we will disintegrate, and that is a reality. It is incumbent upon all of us. It is incumbent upon the Malays, it is incumbent upon all of us, it is incumbent upon our politicians. God knows they seem to have amnesia very easily. If we do not integrate, we will disintegrate. Now what do I mean by integration? I do not mean at all abdicating our religious identity, our racial and cultural identities. No. There are ways in which integration can happen and should happen. The first one is this. You cannot teach unity. You cannot teach that horrible word that I don't like, tolerance. Do you know where the word tolerance comes from? It comes from the 18th century when they used to experiment with medicine. And the word tolerate evolved from finding out how much poison you could take in before you died. that was tolerate. And what tolerate does is me or the other person in a superior position, and I don't like you now, but I tolerate you, I live with you, I endure you. So the words I like to use are coexistence. So we change language too when you talk to your students. Coexistence. What does that mean? Coexistence doesn't mean I obliterate your difference. Coexistence means we will be different, but we will learn how to live together. We find the mechanism. We find the common ground. And can we not make the common ground roti canai all the time? Our politicians take us to this real populist, cheap, lowest common denominator, which is very important. We eat each other's food and so on. We're very good, wonderful. But that is the least of our achievements. Okay? So we have to learn how to coexist. In 2004, at the end of 2004, the Ministry of Education funded a workshop, of course, in a very nice hotel. And I was one of those that was actually surprisingly allowed to speak. As the chairperson of speech told you, a lot of my work is done overseas and not in this